What is that one recording?
I don't know. Producer Jason, is that one recording?
Come on, DP.
All right. Are we recording here?
Yeah, we're recording there.
All right. So, stuff.
And things.
Who's who?
I'm stuff today.
Okay, I'll be things.
Yeah, you can be things. I'm going to be stuff. I feel like a stuff today.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm feeling kind of stuffy.
I feel kind of thingy.
I feel kind of stuffy. All right, so anyways, we went down to Chaz, and we wanted to kind of follow up on our experience down in Chaz. And a lot of people I've talked to so far have talked about how, oh, well, you couldn't have really seen the real Chaz because you didn't go there at night. And yeah, I can kind of see the validity behind that a little bit, where nighttime is going to bring out different types of people. But Bobby and I have talked about this extensively. That nighttime anywhere is going to bring out different types of people. But that aside, our trip, just completely wiping that away as far as being a piece that's in play for Chaz, I would say that it's unimportant for what our trip was. Our trip was to, we both are not necessarily opposing the cause of it, but we're not necessarily down to clown with everything they're doing over there.
Yeah, I mean, they're the list of demands and the politics and all that stuff. I mean, the general direction that those folks want to move, I guess.
Exactly. So
or how they're going about it.
But our trip down there was less about necessarily being able to see how peaceful they are, or to see anything necessarily. What we wanted to see is the actual true nature of what was happening down there, versus what, you know,
people are trying to paint it to be.
Exactly. And I hate to say it this way, but how the media, whichever kind of media you're consuming, there's a bit of a narrative there. And this is actually where I was talking about it a little bit the other day. But one of my biggest points for this is that I am so sick of seeing a narrative being displayed in any sort of media.
I don't like being told what to think.
Exactly. And any sort of news that you come across, even if you're just scrolling through your Facebook page and you see different people's opinion on all these different things, it's all just this different narrative that's being painted
and parroted.
And even when you're talking to someone, it's this narrative that everyone is so... I want to see a more factual based society is what I would really
we're close enough to where, I mean, we really wanted to find out what was going on there. And I mean, I went in there with an open mind, and I certainly don't agree with the ideologies of probably the vast majority of the folks there. Yeah. But I just wanted to see for myself what they were all about. And
it was a great opportunity to really get an idea of what everyone was doing.
So, in regards to Chaz, that was kind of my thing. Like I said, I don't really necessarily agree with the ideologies of everyone down there, and kind of their not necessarily. I think everyone wants to get to this place where everyone's needs are met, and violence is low, and there's plenty of resources to go around, and I think everyone get on board with that. I think the big thing is, me and you both likely disagree with the way the majority of those people down there would go about accomplishing that.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, and that was one of the biggest things that we wanted to go and actually see it, so we could get an understanding of what it actually looked like. Not because we were trying to defend it, but and this isn't just us trying to come across as like, oh, we're trying to apologize for that last video. By no means whatsoever, because we went down there, we learned
controversials,
and we saw something that we weren't necessarily expecting to see. We were both packing heat.
Yeah, absolutely.
we
hear these stories of these rappers and drug dealers handing out guns to armed security I mean, maybe some of that stuff happened in the beginning. From what I understand from folks down there, it was a much more tumultuous setting as things were starting to pop up down there, and maybe the way they even went about taking that area over. And there's certainly an argument to be said that if you were a business or a resident down there, that I could see it being it'd suck. it'd be in a bad spot. These people are in your area, and I feel for those folks. But by and large, the environment was pretty peaceful, and I think that was probably the thing that I wanted to witness for myself the most. Was it a violent place? Was it a place where you would feel like you had to watch your back, or is it a place where everyone was just kind of hanging out and getting along and having important discussions?
And another thing too is, as far as, and I've been telling this to everyone who has asked me, like, you probably didn't see what was really happening in Chaz. They're putting on their best performance and everything.
Their best behavior.
Yeah, their best behavior. And I would say it's not organized. It is chaotic. It's chaotic. It is peaceful. And it's a little bit gross and a little bit beautiful all at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have...
It's like a lot of places in America.
Yeah, and I would say, so just kind of to break that down a little bit more, you had a lot of street art that was really well done. You had a lot of street art that wasn't really well done. The streets smelled like pee, and more so than regular parts of Seattle. Most of Seattle does kind of smell like pee, but and also a strong smell of really cheap weed. So it smelled like pee and cheap weed, and there was a lot of good art, but there's also a lot of bad art.
Yeah.
A lot of just like mindless type of graffiti.
Yeah, slogans and catchphrases that have been going on.
And a lot of tags too. I noticed a lot of tags down there.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest message that you can take from that is that it is just chaotic. I really don't think now, after seeing it in person, that there's any sort of mastermind behind all of this. One of the questions I did ask Andy while we were down there is, who was it who renamed it to Chop? Because that has to be the leader, right? Well, I think that it was more of just someone happened to get behind a camera and have the opportunity to say, you know what, we're naming this to Chop.
Yeah.
And then that
catches on,
and it catches on, and then it just continues to perpetually gain more of a foothold until you have the name changed to Chop. And I think that that's essentially how everything works down there. Things just get a foothold, and then they just kind of gain enough popularity until it just sticks.
I don't want to go too long here, and on this show in particular, it might be obvious to some, but I try at least to keep my politics to a minimum, and I don't try to go off in these tirades. But the main thing that I felt, I think people feel desperate, and I think people feel helpless. And I think people feel like they have a voice that they want to be heard. And I think that all of those people were coming together there and trying to make their voices heard. Regardless if you believe there's a problem or not. So here's my biggest. So I'm kind of I would consider myself conservative in a lot of ways. I'm socially progressive to the extent that I annoy some of my more conservative friends. However, imagine you're at your house. It's 1:00 in the morning. Mm-hmm. You're there with your wife, your girlfriend.
Both of them in the same room, huh?
Yeah, your wife or your girlfriend, and you notice there's something going on outside. You hear people milling around. Next thing you know, your door gets broken down, and your wife gets shot in front of you. You do what you've got to do and return fire because you don't know who this is. Come to find out, it's the cops. Come to find out, it's a no-knock warrant on the wrong address. You get arrested, and you stand trial to go to jail for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. 25 years, 50 years, maybe not the rest of your life. For anybody to deny that the fact that can happen in America, that the fact that can happen is incredibly problematic, you're not paying attention. So regardless of your beliefs, something needs to be done. You may or may not feel desperate about it, but there's a lot of people out there that do feel desperate about it. They don't know how to express themselves. So we've got to do our best if we want to actually have this needed discussion to be understanding. And that's what I was trying to do. I didn't mean to go off on a tirade, but
no, for sure. I mean, I don't think anyone can really disagree. A lot of people will immediately rebuke what you said just because they'll think of specifics in your mind. But
put yourself in that situation.
If you actually really take a second and think to put yourself in that situation and what that would look like, You don't want that.
We need to
We
make
don't
sure
want
that
that.
doesn't. We need to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
and different people have different ways to go about it, and some are right and some are wrong. But the discussion needs to be had. And you know, there's a lot of people that are trying to co-opt. They might think that me bringing this up is a co-op, but the bottom line is we need to be having discussion. We need to try to be understanding, and that's what I wanted to do. And we
Yeah.
don't gotta. I don't want to go too deep into that because I don't want this to turn into a hey, you guys comment away in the YouTube comments, but I'm going to make it a point not to respond because there's much people smarter than me who are much more articulate who can have that conversation much better than I can.
Yeah, and ultimately, what we were us going down there was not us trying to make a stand against anything. It was to see outside of the media's lens, either side of the media. There are two sides to the media right now, and to see firsthand what everything looked like and to take away that narrative. One side is saying that it's a utopia that just that's so unprofessional.
It is.
One side is saying that it's a utopia that is wonderful and peaceful and nothing's wrong with it, and the other side is saying it's a dystopia. And you know what? As soon as we went down there, we saw it was just kind of right there in the middle,
like most
closer to-
things.
yeah. And that's really what I gained from it, and what I learned is that it's really hard to actually trust a lot of the things that you do here nowadays. And it opened my eyes to that, I guess, a bit more than I already had that standpoint, but it opened my eyes to that idea more, is that learn something for yourself and take everything you hear with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. That's what I learned.
My final thoughts, wrapping everything up, is we need to have significant and monumental change, in my opinion, and we're all going to go about it in different ways, and that's the way they're doing that, right or wrong. Let's at least open our ears and listen.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's cheese it.